Do you want to talk about how you're feeling right now?
Oh, so many questions. What does this mean? What do I do?
Go on! Tell them what you think!
I liked it.
I think your calculations may have been off.
I think it's all right.
I just have a lot of feelings.
This pleases me.
These are perfectly normal feelings.
Do you even know what you sound like when you talk like that?
Now, shall we begin?
We wish to impress upon you, Herr Top Secret, that we have methods for dealing with movie choices that will not cooperate.
Now, was the last time, why did you attack our beloved World War II movie classics?
I didn't know who they were. I just saw them pull a gun on a girl.
Might I remind you, Herr Top Secret, that the penalty for murder is death by firing squad. Let us hope for your sake that those movies survive.
Yeah, it is the hospital in general.
What is the condition of the war movie classics? Yeah, I see. Well, let me know if there's a change to their condition. They are dead. I'm afraid you leave me no alternative but to introduce you to two of mine associates. Drew lacks structure and has to watch movies wholly by curated watch lists. Nathan is a cherry picker who knows only what he reads on the back of shampoo bottles while drinking shower water. I believe they will never let the movie lose consciousness, however long they may watch it.
You don't scare me. My host, Jack, is on his way to the American movie consulate.
Do not be so sure, Herr Top Secret. Evidently, your host did not realize that here in East Germany, we have 220 distinctive types of sausage. He was found in his hotel room immobilized by gout and demanding more mustard. Our sausage makers did what they could, but it took them 2 hours of continuous feeding just to get the smile off his face. Perhaps the military comedy spoof has chosen to reconsider? Make sure they leave no marks.
Ich liebe dich, my shots.
Hey, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real Feels podcast, where we bring you a different movie of a different genre fortnightly.
Fortnightly.
And the ye old grab baggins bounty on to me for this episode was military comedy. And I have chosen 1984's Top Secret. Let's see some of that beautiful, beautiful bean footage.
Looking for a video that will make you laugh out loud? Then catch Val Kilmer in his undercover comedy where East meets West.
Michael war mit meiner guten Wortenliste. What the hell did you say to him? Nothing. I just told him I put his name on the Montgomery Ward mailing list.
Hillary.
Now, that's an unusual name.
It's a German name. It means she whose bosoms defy gravity.
It seems that you have become, how do you say, indispensable?
Indispensable? I'm not the first guy who fell in love with a girl he met in a restaurant who then turned out to be the daughter of a kidnapped scientist, only the loser to her childhood lover who she'd last seen on a deserted island and who turned out 15 years later to be the leader of the French underground.
I know it. It all sounds like some bad movie.
When the creators of Airplane and The Naked Gun set out to make a spy spoof, the laughs fall hard on the East German High Command in Top Secret.
Latrine!
What funny dog poop.
Don't I know you from somewhere, monsieur? Have we not met?
Yep.
So, have you guys ever seen this movie before? I think I drunkenly put it on during our like Christmas Hamsmas one year.
It was this last Hamsmas. You put it on. We got to enjoy the newness of your home, and Hamsmas was there, and yes, drunkenly put it on, which was great because. I think it just added to it.
So I did not enjoy it as much at your house as I did, like just because
there's stuff going on.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to take it, like if it was a comedy or if more. No, scratch that. I knew that it was a comedy, obviously, but how serious it was taking itself. Upon watching it 3.5 times now, doing this, I am well aware of what it is, what it's going for, and just how strangely deep the jokes are in this film. That they never get mentioned. Some of them never get touched. You just have to see it and go, "Oh, there's darts on the English bullseye airplane at the very, very end." Like, why?
Just some of the little things, like when the German soldier pulls up to the command headquarters in his motorcycles, but puts the traces around like he's tying up a horse,
which leads up to him yeah,
which is one of the best parts. I died laughing because it caught me off guard so well. Of just where he's like, "Yeah, get out of here."
It's methodical.
Just the visual gags, like when the German removes his helmet out of respect to present the dispatch to the general, and he still has like the chin strap from the helmet painted onto his face, and then like the General Streck reads the message, and of course he has a rubber stamp on his desk that boom. Find them and kill them, because that's something we would all just need in our daily lives.
Of course. The directors, the Zaz brothers, like they had a rule where if there is a joke going on in the background, there cannot be one up front to distract from the joke. Yeah. So like when the general comes to the club and is trying to get a table, it's in the background that you have to notice that Nick Rivers is getting not like, "Oh, look, we require a jacket. We think like, oh, they're just going to go give him a jacket." No, he's getting a whole suit tailored. And each like cutaway and cutback, it's like him getting measured, him in his boxers, him putting on the shirt. It's hilarious.
And Drew, thank you for bringing up Zaz. Everyone probably is on their radar. You've seen something they've done, but Zaz stands for the American comedy directing writing team that was Jim Abrams and the brothers David Zucker and Jerry Zucker. So their first filmography was they were screenwriters for a movie that I rented from Blockbuster without my mom knowing just what it contained back in the day, called the Kentucky Fried Movie. They were responsible for 1980s Airplane, the short-lived Police Squad TV show. Top Secret, of course. The Naked Gun came from David Zucker by himself. Jerry Zucker did Ghost. Naked Gun, again, Jerry Zucker. And then Jim Abrams did Hot Shots 1 and Hot Shots Part 2. So, and First Night, by the way, also David Zucker, or Jerry Zucker, go figure. But
they did a few episodes of like Police Squad as well, but not even all of them aired.
Well, yeah, because it was canceled after 6 episodes.
No. And that's why it's hilarious. It's almost like a joke in a joke where like on, people are knowing it's like, oh, from the creators of Airplane and Police Squad. And we were like, what? What show?
So the budget for this was about $8.5 to $9 million. It came in $1 million under budget. And it's unfortunately for that time was considered a box office bomb. It only made $20 million. So today, though, it has gotten that acclaimed, cult classic status just because of how outlandish it is. There's a gag in there's no straight scenes in this movie. Like there is some sort of visual gag going on, or there are entire scenes that is just one big gag. So what were some of your favorite gags that you guys noticed or that tickled you?
I would probably say, see, and I'm trying to think like for tiny little things, not so much like the big things, because I mean, obviously we'll get to the bigger things, but I think one of the first things that I very much laughed at was taking off the helmet and the chin strap is still painted on his face. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. When he's in the train car, Nick is like seeing everything pass by and he's painting. And you realize that he's painting like the whizzing blur.
There is sauerkraut in my lederhosen.
None of that is real German that you're listening to.
Well, there is real German in it, and there's a lot of Yiddish phrases and swear, but that specific scene, that was all nonsensical. Little things like the man getting harassed on the train platform, and he's taken out back and shot, and the dogs rip open the suspicious package and it's milk bones.
The dog bones.
When they're going to Nick Rivers is trying to escape with the lady in this Hillary, which was played by Lucy Gutteridge, and they open a door marked janitor, and there's just a guy in there holding a mop. And that makes me laugh every time, even more these days, because the janitor kind of looks like my buddy Brett, and Brett has a very flat affect. So when they open the door, the guys just stand there like, yes. The prop room doesn't have props in it. It has propellers off of airplanes. And then the three German soldiers that finally bust through to arrest Nick, those are the directors. Those are the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams.
Some parts for me that killed it. Obviously, the bicycles, like shooing the whole, But just every little time there was, the whole shootout scene while they're in the house and he skips the window that's already broken to break a window. They're doing tic-tac-toe.
Well, I think it's one of the little ones where it's either deja vu or it's latrine, but he sneezes in his hand and looks at it and then just goes like screaming, running across the room, like in the window. Same scene with like the terror. Like what is going on here?
Because he was it was Chocolate Mousse was telling Nick, he's all like, we're all prepared, like we have all faced our dangers and take them on headstrong. And then he sneezes into his hand and he sees it and he's like, ah.
I really enjoyed seeing Jim Carter, who plays Deja Vu, in this.
Yeah, it's oh Christ, from Downton Abbey. Yeah,
from Downton Abbey. Yeah, Downton. And Peter Cushing, obviously, as the Swedish bookstore owner.
That's right.
Which, it was hard to, like, at first, Jack, when you told me that was him, I was like, oh, that is him. The eye does kind of...
Well, it's meant to be distracting. And that was his last film appearance as well, for Peter Cushing. Also... Jeremy Kemp played General Streck, which, if you are a Star Trek The Next Generation, he played Robert Picard, Picard's brother, who ran the winery. And then we have Michael Gough, I think is the pronunciation, who everyone who has grown up during the 80s or 90s would recognize as Alfred from the original 4 Batman movies, the Schumacher and Bruckheimer? Oh, Christ. Who did the first Batman? Burton, yeah, the Burton and
Tim Burton,
Bruckheimer, those 4 movies.
Yeah, and I mean, what like a fortuitous like meetup. It's like, oh, we're eventually going to be in a movie again together.
Omar Sharif, for crying out loud.
Omar Sharif. Oh my gosh,
he was in 13th Warrior.
Lawrence of Arabia.
But I liked him because he's a small little part in 13th Warrior. When I saw him, I was just like, oh, that's you. It's you.
But I think that's the thing where you have to appreciate when it was this era and the style of these movies for this spoof comedy, you had big name dramatic actors, and it was so funny and so like unseen to have them be in these style of comedies where they could actually hold it. They could take the comedic aspect to it. They could run with it. And it
just
was
like
so good.
The intelligence scene with Omar Sharif where he meets his contact who is, selling the novelties. the novelties, party tricks, souvenirs.
Here, sir, smell this flower.
Here, try this out, sir. You'll be the life of the party.
But it doesn't come off like super forced. Like when Harrison Ford tries to do like comedy sometimes, I'm like, no, dude, I don't think this is working very well. Like when he was in the movie 47, I don't know if you guys ever saw that, where it's like a bunch of it just doesn't work. Just throwing a bunch of big actors in something that this works though. Some of these moments, they just work well
because the movie is done with a straight face. Like all this comedy is happening right before your eyes, but it is done with a straight face. It's not like some of the later iterations, like the scary movies and Not Another Teen Movie and stuff like that, where like they're always winking at themselves. Like, look how clever we are.
They do wink one time when they say, well, that would make a bad movie. And they look, slowly
It's
at
like-
the camera. I'm like,
It's
yes.
like something out of a bad movie, and you're like, okay, there's the nod, there's the fourth wall break.
Yeah, but as far as the comedy goes, it's very accessible to anyone. There's only a few topical moments. I mean, I think Pac-Man is well into public domain.
I thought that was
But
brilliant.
there's only a few times where they mention a specific movie or a specific actor or actress by name, or a singer. Like it's not Mel Torme, something like
Right.
that. Where the movies that came on after this later on, it was so much more period specific, where the writers are drawing on what's going on immediately now, and they're not drawing on. This movie is based off the love that these directors had for old World War II movies, and also old Elvis movies and Cold War movies. And they couldn't do a period piece, so they set it in Cold War East Germany, but they also say right up front, like, the time period is really just kind of all over the place for this. Mm-hmm. The only time there's a swastika in it is in Der Pizza House during the pizza dance scene, where there's a Hitler clock on the wall and he's pointing with swastikas in his hands. And that's something I've only picked up after watching this movie dozens and dozens of times over the year.
I see you have become, how do you say, indispensable. Yeah, indispensable. That's how you say it.
That's what I
but some of
thought.
the sight gags, like Omar Sharif getting crushed into the car. And the
windshield wiper fluid.
The windshield, and then when she leans over and her cleavage is in his face when she's trying to get the glove box open and the antenna extends. She plugs in a can of juice, like putting a can of oil into the car.
Oil. Yeah.
That's much better. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it's funny because, I mean, obviously, like, okay, you can laugh at it and you're like, ha ha, ha, dick joke. But who cares? Like, it's not done in such a crude manner. Even the fact, like, when they go to the ballet, it's just mocking the fact that, like, hey, look, obviously, Robin Williams did a stand-up where, men who took on, like, ballet at Juilliard, like, leotards so tight, like, you could tell what religion they are.
When the ballet dancer, the men are all lined up opposite each other,
Yes.
and she goes running down like
just
leaping off of their protruding cod pieces.
Right. I mean, it's such a sight gag. It's so funny. I mean, even when he runs up to the balcony seat and he saves, his lady love, and he's like smushing the guy's face, like, get away from her, pulls his hands away, and the smush face is still there. That's hilarious.
And before that, when they show him watching the show and they show him seated next to the dignitaries, they're passing out concessions like it's a baseball game. Like, there's drinks and hot dogs and popcorn getting passed to this like very highbrow opera scene. It's just the absurdity of it.
Yeah, it's
weirdly,
so well done.
This movie ages well in some aspects
because it didn't have that topical humor.
Right.
But they kind of bet on the future and not said racial jokes about other races. They primarily poked at, I think, like do you know any good white basketball players? There are no good white basketball players. I'm like, hey, that's a line that you could say now, and it would still get a good laugh.
Who do you cheer for at the Wimbledon Open? I always vote against the heterosexual.
Or when the East German girls Olympic team comes down, like, it's just muscular men in drag.
That was actually pretty funny. I rewatched this with my parents, and my dad got a good laugh at that. I thought it was just it's ridiculously funny towards, again, even with non-topical humor, and there's so many things that you can laugh at where you don't need to understand what era the joke is coming from. Very, very few are you actually going to need to know what it is. But, like, even the Pinto gag, like, if you understood the fact that, like, Ford screwed up royally on the design of the Pinto, and if it got rear-ended in the back, it would ignite the gas tank, and then the car was notorious for blowing up. You don't need to know that. You just need to know that, like, oh, look, it barely tapped it and the car exploded. it's still funny.
Or things that are completely made up, like when they're doing the waltz during the fine dining scene. Like, what a ridiculous dance! Like they're clapping and then like they're inflating their mouths, and the partner is pushing in on their cheeks with the finger to get the fart noises. It's just this little stupid, like you said at the beginning. Like, I know a little German. He's right over there, and there's a little German man in lederhosen. It's like, hello.
How happy is he? Just like waving. He's like, she noticed me.
But we haven't really mentioned Val Kilmer much. This was
First movie.
pretty young for him. I think this is only
his first.
Well, that wasn't his first, but his first like real.
Yeah, no, it
was it?
It was his very first film.
Yeah. And this was, he sang all the songs. Like, that's his voice. They released the soundtrack, and that it was credited for helping him get on as Jim Morrison in the Doors movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I think when did Top Gun come out? Was that like 2 or 4 years later?
It was like 86 through 88, somewhere in there, I think.
Okay, so it's like 2 to 4 years later. I don't know. I don't know when Top Gun came out.
I thought that his career was kind of bulked in the early years and that he fell off and just disappeared. But I mean, he's done stuff that has surfaced and was decent well into the 2000s, but something is up with him. And I know that he had, I guess, throat cancer?
Yeah, he had throat cancer.
But I still feel like there's something more to that of why he dipped out
mentally.
Yeah, maybe
could be. I think the last thing I saw him in, he was playing the villain in MacGruber.
That's what I remember his last big thing. But I mean, he's been doing other stuff since then, like little cameos. He was in, I guess, the movie The Snowman, which was like a horror film.
Oh, yes, that's right. He was in The Snowman, which was not good.
Did you guys watch, I think it was Mindhunters? Or,
no.
What was it?
The one that was on Netflix, the series?
No, it was a movie with Christian Slater was in it for a little bit.
I watched him recently. I mean, recently, as in maybe like a year and a half ago. He was in a horror movie called The Super, and he played like the super of an apartment building where this family moves in, and strange things start going about and happening.
Oh, sorry, he's in a movie called Mindhunters with LL Cool J, Christian Slater. It's a good little horror. Not super puzzly, but a little bit puzzly, so that tickles my fancy a little bit. It's a good one-off. Just watch and go, okay, cool.
I mean, he was still Mad Mardigan to me. Iceman, The Saint. I still love that movie. So, I don't know, but this was a good role for him. Apparently, he showed up to the audition dressed as Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie. It opens with the skeet surfing song about skeet shooting while you're surfing, and sort of the like Annette Funicello sort of era of
it's like Beach
Boys sort of thing. There's a lot.
Did you notice that on the top 10 or top 100 list of songs in America? All 3 are his, and all 3 of them are some form about skeet shooting.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of still captures the American imagination that they were joking about that back in the 80s about, Americans really do love their guns. They love them so much that they take them on skeet shooting events where they're surfing on the beach with their honeys.
He'll forever be, Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Daisy if you do.
But watching this movie really gave me an appreciation for early Val Kilmer. And even more than The Doors, Jim Morrison, which I wasn't... it was a good movie, but that just wasn't my kind of Val Kilmer. And this... It's kind of one of those... I'm glad that when someone passes and you're at the funeral and... you're talking about when you knew them and the memories you have of them. You didn't have to be there during the late years where they were senile and they were angry at people. You got to be there for the good times, and I feel like I've had Val Kilmer for the good times.
I would agree with that. This was just anytime we turn it on, it's just like, look how young he is.
Yes, very young.
Man.
For me as a kid, I loved watching him in The Island of Dr. Moreau, playing Montgomery. I loved that movie as a kid, but it scared me so much. Just like the creature effects and like the idea that like the merging of man and animal. I loved it, but it was, to me, it was just still, it was such a creepy aspect, especially for a movie that was just like shown on TV. And of course I had to like hide it like between commercials from my mom as like a 10-year-old kid going like, let's go.
So the directors, Abram Zucker, they say that Airplane was a full-on real movie and that Top Secret is just 90 minutes of jokes. And I think that's a fair approximation. The plot is just sort of there in the background to help the jokes along.
There's no real
there's
story
no real
either.
set time period. it's just
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with the fact that like if you take away the jokes, even Zaz, as they said in an interview, they had said even if you take away the jokes, there's still a solid plot. Like there's still a story to tell.
It doesn't end on a high note. It's just sort of like it, and for me, and I've watched it so many times, but at about the 70, 75 minute mark, you're just sort of like, more gags. There's still more gags. We're like, and that's one of the things that sets this movie apart is it is from beginning to end just spoofs and gag fest every single scene. But you do get kind of run down on that. There's only so many times you could be like, oh, that's pretty clever. Oh, yeah, that's cute. So it does sort of run dry. Let's see, what were my clues for this one?
So your clues.
All right, we had a crushed car for Agent Cedric. We had the actor from The Blue Lagoon, which is where they got the inspiration for Nigel's look, even down to the necklace, and his opening in like the palm fronds and codpiece. We've got Chocolate Mousse for one of the best portrayals of French resistance, and Deja Vu. As well. So those were my clues for this movie. I hope somebody out there got them. I think military comedy and Chocolate Mousse, if you're a fan of military comedy at all, that should go right to the top. Yeah. And the Crush Car is a giveaway.
I think the Crush Car would be a good giveaway. I mean, maybe even Blue Lagoon if they really, really do remember. And I mean, I think what's unfortunate is that with something like Top Secret, I think it has to have that niche cult following because it's not like it's surpassed, but I think it's so predated to some of the spoof films that are a little bit more well known, even though this kind of like being the grandfather of them.
I honestly did not get the Blue Lagoon.
It's kind of overlooked.
I thought it was a Island of the Blue Dolphins reference. Because
no,
okay,
it was
because
Brooke
when she was
Shields,
talking about
Blue
like, her
Lagoon.
brother, and I was like, well, her brother dies in the book if I remember correctly. Like, and I'm like, God, I am digging way back,
See, that's where I'm going with a little bit of like the plot, Drew. It's like that's their connection is they were shipwrecked and that he got rescued, but they were communists, and that's why that he's the traitor.
I love that he's like, you think it's the first time that I've ever fallen for, like, and he gives that whole speech, like, wait, that exactly happened? That's great.
Or they have that whole conversation after they've parachuted out of the airplane, and like they kiss passionately, and then there's a roaring fireplace on another parachute that just happens to be in the background. Like I love some of that, just that little stuff right there. Or the guy who plays Nick Rivers' manager, like he goes into the cell where he's being kept. There's that really weird aside about how he can't bring his wife to orgasm, so Nick Rivers just happens to have the anal intruder 5000, like the double-pronged multiple attachments.
It's like a mini jackhammer with a plug.
and then
It took 2 hours.
he goes.
The first thing he attaches is the fist.
And when they show it later on as that being the cause of death for him, he was found impaled on an electrical device. It's like a half split banana attachment on top. But when he leaves Nick and he's like, "Don't worry, Nick, everything will be all right," and then he gives him this smile that's just so lacking in confidence. Just that's what makes me bust out laughing anymore. There's the weird scene where they look over the side of, I think, the building the opera is in, and it's the set from Superman that they had the camera to shoot down at the city streets below, but of course they filled it up with like mice and hamsters.
I love that. It's like, I need to explain. I don't think you can.
But folks, like, this isn't going to really win any awards for. It may win in my mind for creativity, but it's just it's something else. It's like nothing I've ever seen before or will ever see again. It's just its own separate thing, and that's Oh, you like movies? Have you ever seen Top Secret? Many people haven't. It came out. I was 2 years old when it came out. You guys weren't even born yet.
We were a thought.
You were a thought.
A twinkle.
A gleam in your daddy's eyes. But it doesn't have like the notoriety of Airplane, because Airplane went on to Spawn. Then they used the same actor in the was it Naked Gun franchise, and then he went on to do Mafia later on. So we were just discussing like the history of these spoof films, where to me, this is my style of humor. I love this stuff because this is what I grew up on. I grew up on things like Hot Shots and Airplane and the Naked Guns franchise. And I was telling Nathan, I said, like, I think the last of these specific spoof films was Mafia. And that was in 1998. And then the very first Scary Movie, which I believe was the newer generation of it to come, was in 2000. So I think Mafia was the very last of this kind of era. Yeah, and we brought that up as far as how movies have changed over time, and I brought up the spoof, and it is very true. You don't see movies like this anymore, and I was thinking about it while I was watching it again last night, and it's like maybe our society has just gotten so absurd that there's not really much left to spoof at this point. Like, if you want to spoof, turn on the news. It's already there. It doesn't have to be packaged for you. It's already a joke.
Did you guys... go ahead, Drew.
Oh, no, I mean, I was going to kind of like go off Jack's saying that like you don't necessarily see spoof movies anymore. I think that are clever or that are like really, really smart humor, kind of like Top Secret or Hot Shots and Airplane and stuff. And I think it's more to the point because I don't think a lot of the jokes are going to land specifically. And I think in general, an audience today is, I don't know, I think they need like shock value humor. But even when they're given shock value humor, that even doesn't like stick the landing for them, because you had things like, not that it's a great example because it was horrible. It was not a good movie. But you had whatever that puppet cop movie with Melissa McCarthy.
Were you about to say Team America was not good? I was like, whoa.
No.
That's a sort of a
genre.
That's
different
like
beast itself.
Well, I mean, that's like parody-ish.
I think. Hold on, is it Jim Abrams? No, David Zucker directed Basketball, which is one of my guilty pleasures.
So good.
Which was also Trey Parker and Matt Stone. One of their first movies, I think, after Orgasmo.
Oh, gosh.
And,
it's a great movie. Have you guys watched Bo Burnham's special yet, Inside?
No.
He kind of talks about it a couple of times, but just that, is it still okay to be funny? Is it okay to, make jokes about uncomfortable things? Or
there are no white basketball. There are no good white basketball players.
Have we moved on as a society from low-hanging fruit comedy things, or even just that it doesn't have to be this J.J. Abrams mystery box, super in-depth crazy thing? It can just be Knives Out. Does it a little bit with what's his name's Daniel Craig's character being kind of Rooster Cogburnish, where it's like, oh, he doesn't have to be the Hercule Poirot. He can just be, oh, what are you saying? You know, I don't know.
I'm here to find what is going on.
The murderer.
The
murderer down in Savannah, Georgia. It just, I wish that we were still there. What do you think Val Kilmer's career would have been had this had been the Hot Shots, the Mafia, the Airplane?
I don't know. I still think his career was still hot through the 80s and the 90s.
But do you think that... I don't think he
Or if he got like more typecast in this sort of role, like Charlie
exactly.
Sheen.
I think that he would have stayed in this comedy like rut and never really got to get out to do Mad Mardigan, to do a Top Gun,
to do Saoirse.
Oh.
I think without like a comedic role that honestly put him in the spotlight, and even though it wasn't a success that it should have been, it was still good. People saw what he could do, and then he got Top Gun. Then he...
Plus, he was the straight guy in this.
He wasn't
anyway.
a comedic person, and you know, he carried the straight, like you said, the straight face. Nailed it.
Right. I don't know. You got him going. Top Gun, Willow, you know, Tombstone a little bit afterwards, Heat in the 90s.
Heat.
I don't know. I mean, he kind of veered away from a little more comedic roles, obviously, and was doing more action and hardcore films. But what a thing to look back on.
Yeah, or maybe, you know, I always thought that if you were an actor or maybe like a tech entrepreneur or something, like, is there a time where you've made your nut and you're like, fuck it, I'm in my late 40s or early 50s, I don't need to do this shit anymore. I'll just sit here in my ranch and do what I want to do, and I have enough for me to live the lifestyle that I'm living many times over right now.
Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, after he did Lincoln, he was like, I'm good. Has he been anything like serious or big since Lincoln?
Only that one movie where he was like the
dressmaker.
Yeah, he was like Garrick from Deep Space Nine. He was the tailor. Okay. Or like the fashion maker, which that was a pretty good movie. I did enjoy.
I know that like after There Will Be Blood, he made like a public statement saying like, I don't need to do anymore because I don't think I can do better than, you know, There Will Be Blood. But then he went on and did Lincoln. But, you know, after that, obviously, there's this dressmaker movie, but I don't know of anything off the top of my head, anything that he has done since.
So maybe it's not so much that he dropped out of style or he lost his edge or something. Yeah, I think that's more of like the Travolta.
Yes.
Or
even Mel Gibson?
Even Mel Gibson. But Mel Gibson,
Gibson's been doing some stuff.
He blew himself up.
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
Yes, he blew himself up. And he's been doing some things like
Fat
Kill
Man?
the Fat Man. Yeah.
Fat Man was so much
Fat Man
fucking
was
fun.
Great. And I think that's a good comeback kind of for him because he's done other films that some have gone to theaters, some are like direct to video, but something like Fat Man where it's so good and you know there either is or should be a sequel to it. Like something.
I don't think he's. I don't think he's coming out of
there's
it.
Bruce Willis, and you know, Bruce Willis is in one of my favorite movies of all
Mr.
time.
Phone It In.
But there's currently a Bruce Willis movie. I think that's on Netflix.
It's like a sci-fi thing.
Like a sci-fi thing, but it's like everybody is like, you know, doing their sci-fi thing in the previews, and then he's just sitting there, just sort of like, this is Nakatomi Towers in space. All right, let's do this. And I'm sorry, Bruce. You've
Argyle.
You've lost the passion for it, man. You haven't done any different role of any kind in the past 20 years.
You just need Tracy Morgan like next to him in the scene, just going, nope, no.
Yeah, they need to bring Chris Tucker out of retirement and get some Ruby Rod on there.
hot.
Corbin, what do I do, man?
The paper.
So there are two scenes I want to brush on before we get into segments that are worth bringing up because they're just so out of the left field for any movie. But that is the backwards Swedish bookstore scene, which is just so much fun to watch and rewind and watch it again. And then there's the underwater duke out, the Old West underwater duke out, where folks at home, if you haven't seen this, they are fighting on the side of a military truck. They both fall over the edge of the bridge, Nigel and Nick Rivers, and they descend into basically like an underwater old Western bar and have a fist fight complete with broken bottles over the heads and discharged six shooters. It's just, I remember distinctly watching that scene for the first time and just being mind blown. Like, what the fuck is going on right now?
The book scene is absolutely brilliant. I mean, even if you were to watch it in the proper order, you know what I mean? Kind of like, if you were to watch Memento the way it was filmed. But it's still so funny. I mean, just them walking in, the magnifying glass up to the face, taking it away. You're realizing it's just a giant eye, which the mold for his head was made by one of the special effects artists from Star Wars who did like Yoda. And then they had to take a whole mold of his head. And that's where he, made the piece that goes on his face. That's the same mold that they used to digitally scan for Rogue One when they put Tarkin back in. But it's
we were so close to greatness.
But it's just it's so funny.
A bookshop owner, a man of your talents.
It's just so good and funny. I mean, like, it's brilliant to think that, like, how many times, because it's also like most of it one continuous shot. I mean, that's a credit unto itself. And just like to know that you have to him sucking in before he has to like how he has to do it perfectly right.
The
it's
books
so
popping
good.
out of the bookcase so it looks like he's throwing them
has
up
to
there.
Catch it just right. I want to know how many times they tried that.
Exactly. I was curious on just how many times they were like, it's not fluid enough. That looks too clunky. You've got to had to do the whole scene over again.
And as far as the underwater scene, like, this wasn't the Abyss that we were talking about a few episodes ago. Like, they all shot really, really, really short takes and then just cut them all together. And then at one point where Val Kilmer is doing sort of like
footwork.
The curly footwork from the Three Stooges, or like the rope-a-dope footwork for boxing, you can clearly see that it's like peeling white paint on the bottom of a metal tank that his feet are sort of playing over. So, the wool's not completely over your eyes, but I want to know what was going through their heads. Like, they fall over and then like, they're fighting on boats. Like, no, we'll have them have a Western duke out at the bottom of the river. Like, what the fuck?
So I almost wondered if this was going, the first time that I really was watching it, I thought it was going to do more of the or this is where maybe Peter and the chicken fights kind of pull from, where it's like they go from one extreme to the next, where da 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 da, and
Peter's on top of the train and the chicken is about to get to him and he sees the bridge coming
and so they jump off.
The German soldier just crashes through it unscathed and he even looks over his shoulder like there's the broken bridge.
Some really bold choices to do full scenes like this and not to kind of skimp out and go, oh, well, we don't really need to do a full on fight scene underwater. It was like, no, let's do it. This is great.
Yeah, I thought it was really brilliant and incredibly well done. I mean, even watching it back when we had Hamsmas, and I remember you sitting in your chair and you're just like, taking another sip of your drink, and I'm watching and you're just like, pay attention. And I'm just like, Jack, I got it. No,
you don't understand.
Watch.
If you take your eyes off the screen, you're gonna miss something.
You were so excited, and I just loved how excited you were for it.
When they're fighting in the truck before they go over into the water, and like instead of hitting each other, they're fighting over the radio. Right. Like, it's just, that's so fucking stupid. And then, like, with the shootout at the Resistance headquarters, like, playing tic-tac-toe with the window panes. And then, like, he gets, like, all three in a diagonal. Like, that's the end of the shootout for him. Or, like, the shortest guy in the Resistance is also at the tallest window in the house, so he's got to like jump up. He can't even see over it. He's just shooting over it. And then frickin' Deja Vu can't even break the window with his gun. He bends the gun. He breaks the sledgehammer on it. And then when they do get inside, like, and everyone's getting attacked by these Germans, Chocolate Mousse just does like a very surgical, like, he's just waving the Tommy gun around, and then it shows everybody else, and just all the German soldiers drop, and all the Resistance fighters are just like, oh,
my man,
they're shooting.
And then you have another. I know the one character come in, my man. I loved Chocolate Mousse like picking up the cannon. And firing it through the window, or the
troop car is coming towards them, and he just stands up, and somebody off camera hands him the Tommy gun, like he had like a gun caddy standing off camera waiting there.
The singing horse, I thought was quite funny. Or
when he's looking through the binoculars at the herd of cows that they're going to infiltrate, and the cows just start jumping over the bottom arc of the binoculars, and you realize he's not looking through binoculars. It's just a camera shot of a large black cutout that looks like binoculars.
There's a lot of optical
illusions. And the
illusions.
horses are just parading through it.
Yeah, there's a lot of optical illusions, much like the phone call. And you think that the phone is just closer to the camera. No, it's a giant frickin' phone.
the cow
that he's
with
answering.
The boots.
Oh, that was so funny. Just watching him.
Which the cow was listed in the credits. I think the cow's name was Daisy. Cows apparently hate having anything on their hooves or their feet, so they were Velcroed around her legs, and then they painted like the black spots onto her as well.
There's a lot of that's a gimmick. You had the boots that when he crawled through the fence, he thought someone was standing there when he came face to face with him, but they're just a set of boots that are sitting there. And even when, the
gun leaned against the tree that was holding the tree up.
The general sitting in his desk, and that was the only other joke that, you could still laugh at it as Nazi calisthenics, to get into
workout
shape.
Boots?
But the actual, the boots that are sitting up on the desk, and then he actually stands up, and they're still there, and you realize that those are not his legs.
The book that he's reading, where it's like the German workout boots,
right. But the person that is actually depicted on the cover, he was actually quite an overweight individual for the German army. So that's why, if you knew who it was funny. Luckily, it's kind of funny. I had my parents over watching my second time through it, and my dad is looking at it going that's funny. And I was like, wait, pause. Why? And he's like, oh, no. If you know who that is, that's pretty funny. So, again, there's very few jokes, I think, that historically, not even culturally, I think you just if you know a little bit of history of who it's kind of pointing out at, that makes it a little bit funny. Funnier, probably.
It's on the corner of Hitler Street and Himmlerstrasse. Or Nigel is in the back of the cow, and the calf comes up and starts to feed. And that's really one of the only highbrow scenes in it. But I just love how Nigel's well, just hold on. I don't see why we're in such a rush to begin with.
Why is everyone always rushing? Ooh.
And then when he gets it from the other end, congratulations, you're an asshole. And the bull comes up and starts to mate with the cow. And the next scene is when he confronts, or when, was it Lucy? She gets, figures out that Nigel's the traitor. And there's Nigel, and it's straight face until he starts walking. And it's just the hips are exaggeratedly going up and down, but the feet are only going maybe an inch or two forward at a time. It's just great little comedy bits.
Segmentos?
Segments.
Better. That was kind of okay.
Segments. That wasn't bad.
All right. Souvenirs, novelties, party trick. Agent Cedric's intelligence contact is selling a suitcase of cheap fun. Did you ever indulge in the mundane pranks offered in Halloween stores or Spencer's Gifts at your local mall? What were your favorite, and do you have any good stories putting your nefarious wares to use?
Well, when I, was younger, I absolutely loved, and I mean, still do, love Halloween. Getting as much fake blood as I could. Absolutely loved getting fake blood. I would love to just slather it over stuff, decorating the front of our house, haunted house style, getting ready for people to come up, deck myself out, make myself look like a dead body, spraying up at kids as they, were coming to get candy. But it was during the month of Halloween, going to school, I would get those little fake prosthetics that you could put on your face. And one of them was a pencil that I put, it goes in one here and then the pencil comes out the other side of your head. And I wore that around school and I got sent up to the office because they're all this is extremely violent and you need to take it off. And I'm like, really? Really?
Look at me. Really? Well,
I'm if someone's going to be scared by this, something's off.
I have two items that this segment brought to nostalgia. The first one was my grandpa had just a snake in a can, and I was pretty young. I was probably 5, 6 years old, and he was like, "Oh, Nathan, I want to show you something, but don't tell Grandma. It's really, we're gonna have this after dinner." I was just like, "Oh, what is it?" And he opens it and scares the crap out of me. And then, as a kid, when something happens to you that's hilarious and people are laughing, all you want to do is recreate it. So I went around the entire Thanksgiving evening trying to get
the cat's out of the bag at this point.
Do you want to see what's in the can? And of course everyone's like, "No, I'm good, Nate." And no one would. I'm like, "But I think you should open it because it's really cool." No, I'm good. Thanks though, Nathan. Yeah. Just open the can.
You're like the kid who discovers open the can. You're like the kid who discovers the whoopee cushion, and you're just all like, "Have a seat, Grandma. Thank you." And you're like, "Ah, ha, ha, ha." And then later on, "Dad, no, go sit down, Nathan. Sit down."
So I didn't get anyone except it was like, "Yeah, sure. Oh, being the good dad." But then Harry Potter jelly beans fucked me up. Oh my gosh. Ooh. I took a handful of them because I was like, "Oh, sweet!" And just my nose filled up. Oh no! One was fizzy. I was like, "What the?" And it couldn't get out of my mouth. And so I was, I've got to buy a goddamn carton of this and wreak havoc to other people. And kept that one going for a little bit. And that was a good school one to bring where you're like, "You want some jelly beans?" "Oh yeah, sure." And you catch people off guard because no one's fucking thinking about Harry Potter jelly beans. And sure enough, you got vomit? Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, the one jelly bean from the, every flavor bean that got me was the soap. Ugh. The soap one, it was just, I mean, it brought back such bad memories because when my brother and I, if we were to curse when we were younger, it wasn't "Oh, your mom's gonna take the bar of soap and stick it in your mouth." No, my mother took liquid hand soap and put that in our mouths.
Oh.
And so getting the soap jelly bean, I'm just childhood.
The pain.
So not far from my hometown in Ohio, there is a little town off of the 675 bypass around Dayton that is Fairborn, Ohio. And Fairborn, surrounded by farms on all sides, you're getting pretty rural at this point. And they have the idyllic sort of old town main street where it's 3 or 4 blocks. There's a boulevard, the old, 2-3 story buildings at the max. And this is the town that Foy's built. Foy's is a Halloween company that family out there, and when times got hard, they just kept on buying up these old businesses on Main Street. So at this point, when I checked their website last night, there are 8 Foy's Halloween stores in Fairborn, Ohio.
Oh,
but
wow.
they're specialized. So you've got your adult costume store, your kids' costumes, props and special effects, decorations. They have like the high-end rentals, like if you wanted to go as like Darth Vader or like a real classy Darth Vader or like the Predator, they would rent out these suits during Halloween. I think they even have like a Foy's rock and roll diner out there now. They would have hearses parked around Main Street that were done up to look like Frankenstein or like the hearse from Monster Squad or Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. They would have a store that was just all of like your mischief. And this is where we spent most of our time because our buddy's dad would just drop us off there at some point in September or October. And we all knew we were going out there to find a costume, but it's like, you'll find the cheapest costume you can. And then you blow all your money on mischief. This was packets of flash paper, which I still love. The stink bombs in the little glass ampules. I bought a switchblade that was a comb out there that I wish I still had to this day. They had fart bags, which were little foil packets filled with stinky powder, and you could burst a little liquid chemical reagent inside, and it would slowly blow the bag up and just blow this stinky goo all over the place. So a Halloween night, we were not good. We would leave fart bags on people's doorsteps or in their mailboxes. We would hand out, because usually the stink bombs were in packets of 4, and we would hand out to like our friends, and it's like, okay, in middle school, like between second and third period, you drop this stink bomb here. Between third and fourth period, you drop this stink bomb here. So it's like the school kept on getting stink bombed like every period change throughout the day until they finally started like escorting individual pods over to other pods. So teachers could like keep an eye out for where the stink bombs are coming from.
Like Rogue One, like, are we blind? Deploy the janitors!
I know. And it was carpet, and I'd had a buddy that he threw his down, but he didn't throw it hard enough between classes, and it didn't break, but somebody ended up stepping on it. But the ampule had like a little teardrop at the top, so you could kind of rip that off with your fingers and then pour the stink bomb fluid like as you're walking along, and then like there were those big trash cans all over the school for litter, so like you walk by on your way to class, boom, in goes the evidence, and by about that time is when it starts to fucking stink like skunk. So we had some really good times, and I think we are going back to Ohio this year, and I definitely need to go out to Foy's, not to really buy much mischief, but just for the nostalgia of it, because it's still going strong. But yeah, those were our times. So segmente number 2. Ich liebe dich, mein Schatz. Top Secret was a hangout favorite with my group of friends in late middle school and throughout high school. Even now, almost 20 years later, it would not be uncommon to offer one of them something innocuous like grabbing your buddy a beer and be thanked with Ich liebe dich, mein Schatz as you left the room. Was there a specific movie quote that was in such common use in your friend group that it was practically currency to mark those within it?
So we would have what we called fancy nights, where we would everyone would wear blazers. We'd buy like Excalibur cigars from like Chevron, and you would bring your fanciest of snacks. My contributing snack was usually garlic stuffed olives, because I just thought that they were just classy, like just classy as fuck to. And we typically drink like the shittiest wine that we can get, box wine, and we would have like crazy amounts of wine. I remember, I think one night I drank like 2.5 bottles. Horrible nights, but a lot of fun. And we would play poker, or we would do like kind of like a shuffleboard at the apartment place that we were at. And one night when we were playing poker, my buddy Garrett just said, just quoted the line from Casino Royale, I'm bleeding chips. I'm a brother from Langley. And we were both shit-faced drunk, and it caught me off guard. And so I was just like crying, laughing, what was so funny, guys? And we just kept saying it the rest of the night, and then it turned into a week. Every time that we were laughing, and we one would grab the other person and just, I'm bleeding chips. I'm a brother from Langley. And it stuck for a long, long time. Yeah.
Your shittiest wine line made me kind of remember a quick part in Top Secret when he gets the wine brought over to him in the club and it pops the top and he smells the twist off cap.
Yeah, that
was
fun.
Like, yeah, it's okay. Pour the
bottle of Ripple.
Okay. So again, thank God, I had my dad here. He looked at that and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, that is the foulest wine that you could ever have.
I don't think you can even get it anymore.
You can't get it anymore. He looked me straight in the eye and I was all like, how bad was it? And he's all like, oh, it was 99 cents a bottle. It was so bad. So the fact that it melted through the glass, it completely adds up because I would not have known. Otherwise, even again, to the point of not knowing what it was, just understanding that it melted the glass, all you get from it is that's some really cheap wine.
Yeah, so when I was in college, I worked at a place, and I've talked about this previously on this podcast. It was a beer and wine drive-through where the customer drove into the warehouse, and we would get them their beer, their cigarettes, their wine, their lottery tickets, and then we would get paid hourly and get some tips. There are things that we sold in that drive-through that I have never seen anywhere else because it was just in such a sketchy part of town. And one of them was called Wild Irish Rose. And Wild Irish Rose was the highest alcohol content in a wine that you could legally sell before it became hard liquor. Sort of like the malt liquor of beers. How do we get more bang for our buck? You could buy a pint, or you could buy these
pints?
little shorties of them. Yeah, and we would have Wild Irish Rose races between cars where we just would buy them, tip them back, and it wasn't really a competition because nobody won these things. But yeah, that I could only imagine Ripple being somewhat akin to.
As for movie quotes, I couldn't really think of something that was so prominent in our group of friends where it was a direct movie quote. However, my friend Mike and Zach, and also our friend Tia, we would quote The Simpsons to each other all the time. All the time.
These goggles, they do nothing.
I feel like Family Guy got a lot of, especially seasons 1 through 3 was highly quotable.
Yeah, it was certain things where we would go out to dinner as friends, and I would look over my buddy, and it would just be all what looks good, and he was all I was thinking the sampler, and I'm like, ooh, it's very popular. Or because that's Mo as he's about to perform surgery on Homer, or just certain things where you look at him and he's all were you saying Boo Earns? No, Boo Burns. Oh.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Me fail English? That's impossible. You choose me? Simpsons, all the time. That was late high school, early college years for our group of friends, or especially just me and my buddy Mike. Just all the time, since Simpsons back and forth to each other. And it didn't even necessarily have to apply to what we were talking about, but somehow it didn't matter because we made it work. So yeah, Simpsons all the time.
So with my group of guy friends back in Ohio or back in the Midwest, you can't go wrong with Braveheart. I think at every wedding that has been had, and probably at my wedding reception coming up this fall, one of them is going to declare the rights of prima nocta. If you can't drive them out, she'll breed them out.
It's my right.
My kindergarten cop is another weird one where if we're packing, if we have to,
it's not a tumor.
If we have to pack up, it's the last morning of camping Everyone's hungover. You got to pack up the camper and the campsite and clean up. My buddy Rob, who's a little bit more bushy, blue-eyed and bushy-tailed than the rest of us in the morning, will be like, "All right, come on, guys, come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4." A big one at the last camping trip pre-COVID was it was really fucking cold. We were camping in November, and I think it got into like the 20s that night. So it was really, really frigid, and we would choose to move away from the fire and go into the heated camper. And so as we're approaching, we have to go through the cold zone. We're all freezing our butts off for like, a minute before we get into the heated camper. So I'm in the back yelling, "Open the blast door, open the blast door." And then my buddy Rob, because I would be the last one in, he's shouting over his shoulder, "Close the blast door, close the blast door." And it would piss my buddy Todd off so bad. We'd be like, "Will you guys just shut the fuck up with this stuff?" So if somebody sends like a random YouTube video or a little GIF or something to our friends group, sometimes if it's Todd, like I'll respond by just sending him a 10-second clip on YouTube of "Close the blast door, close the blast door, open the blast door, open the blast door" from Star Wars. And it's so fucking simple, but so fucking stupid at the same time.
I think that's the best thing about those kind of lines. Is just
yeah.
All right, River Bottom Duke out. You are Nick Rivers. Your enemy and you fall out of the transport truck and into the river. You both sink to the bottom, clearly able to breathe. What implausible and imaginative fight awaits you? A duel with laser swords? A gun battle? Bridge officer on a Star Trek vessel? What is your fancy? I'll go first on this one. The Endor, Force Moon of Endor speeder bike scene, but done underwater. Like, it wouldn't be as fast, but it would use the same sound effects, and I would like to see a man in a bad Ewok costume under the water.
I'll take it to these two. I don't know how to do a bubbly voice.
Exactly.
Drew's like, "What the fuck is Nathan doing?"
Yeah.
Cutting this
yeah,
from
or even like the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi as well. Like he gets Boba Fett. I thought you couldn't. And like he gets knocked over the edge, but it's just like he could obviously be saved or swim him out, but Boba Fett is still slowly going to fall and roll into the Sarlacc
pit. So I would do this may be a data. Jack will appreciate this. Drew will appreciate this in different aspects. This is an older film, The Great Race. Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, Natalie Wood, Peter Falk. The pie fight scene in that film is one of the best scenes. It kills. I love it. That movie's a 10 for me. And to do an underwater pie fight scene with those characters would just be hilarious. Word, because the pie would just be dissipating in the water as it's being thrown. The music, it's great.
I like it.
So as we fall into the water and we are descending to the bottom,
through time and space,
our clothes have suddenly switched to chef's outfits, and I land in Kitchen Stadium.
I'm Kikaru!
And Chairman Kaga is standing up there with his bell pepper, and he's just gonna say "a la cuisine" and bite his bell pepper as we try to duke it out in Kitchen Stadium. And I was desperately trying to think of like something that's not gonna like obviously float away underwater, but physics are not really being applied here. But I also thought of something that would be like probably hilarious to try and do, like starting a fire underwater.
Haruki Sakai's doing his famous fish base. How's he gonna pull that off underwater?
All the seasoning
just grabs a fish underwater. Like, you will never find freshness like this.
Fuki-san, it looks like he just grabbed a fish right out of the water.
Actually, that's another thing that my friends and I did all the time to each other. We said that all the time. But yeah, a fight out, a chef cook-off in Kitchen Stadium, which I think would be absolutely hilarious. We'll take the laws and physics of SpongeBob, where we can start a fire underwater and cook things.
I like it. I like it. Well, what would you guys rate this here movie?
So this movie itself, since it is still a little bit so new, and since it still makes me think of Hot Shots and, Naked Gun, but it's not that for me. And I think more so for Jack, since it's so near and dear to his heart, probably because he saw it first, obviously, but it still works. And the more I watch it, much like Nathan, you appreciate more and more and more, and you see more and more and more. This for me gets a solid 3.5 out of 5. I still think it's hilariously funny, but I don't know. It doesn't hit the mark for me on other spoof movies that I personally saw first and grew up with.
Well, I would go with, I'd say 4.5 out of 5 jars of sauerkraut in my lederhosen. This isn't just a movie that's near and dear with me. It's also something that's near and dear with like my really close friend group. So there's just the nostalgia, the quotability of it. Ich liebe dich, mein Schatz. What phony dog poop. Like, there's so many lines out of this movie that can come up at any time when I'm hanging out with those guys.
So if someone asked me, said, Nathan, do you like this movie? And I was told, they recommend the pork bellies marinated in diced pin, roasted swine knuckles, poached in flaming hog balls. Anything's fine. This movie doesn't nail it. It's just a lot of pork and fat, and I like pork and fat and deliciousness. So any of it is just that sounds great. This movie is a good 8 out of 10 because it is what it is. It's just tons of pork, and it is satisfying. Every single watch.
220 distinctive varieties of sausage.
Gout and mustard. But yeah, this was I watched this almost 4 full times for our watch. I'd put it on. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it again. And would tune in and catch a couple new parts.
Why not?
Yeah, there's always new stuff to be caught in it. Yeah, I really do enjoy it, but it is nice that it's only 90 minutes, so that it's something that you can easily bang out in an evening and feel like you're sitting down for a 2.5 hour affair.
Yes.
Right. Well, Jack, do we have a Patreon special for this?
No, we don't.
Oh.
I think unless it really jumps out at me for my own movies, but there is just nothing that either I hadn't done before, or it would just be sort of a mock-up of something else. Plus, I don't know, the movie stands on its own. So, if folks at home, if you want to give us a call on the Tooch line, tell us about your favorite scene, your favorite gag, or why you love or hate this movie, and I think that's Patreon enough.
Or we do have a Patreon, but it is
all right.
Top secret.
Cut, print.
And see.
Well, guys, if you do want to call us on the Tooch line, you can call 661-376-0030. We would absolutely love to hear from you to call on the Tooch line. Again, tell us your favorite parts of Top Secret, maybe even your very own favorite spoof movie that's out there and has come and gone. To say hi, leave recommendations, whatever. Talk about, what things we should be doing and checking out on What Are You Watching? There's plenty of things to do for the Tooch line, folks.
Yes.
Tooch line giveth, Tooch line taketh away, but give to the Tooch line.
Well, you can always give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you don't want to call the Tooch line. Just get on there. Tell us how much you love The Real Feels. We'd absolutely adore it. The more that you give us that recognition is the more that Real Feels gets out there in the podcast verse, and we get to spread the feels to everyone, folks.
And it'll go to our heads. That'll go straight to the noggin.
Find them and spread them.
Leave no marks.
Well, guys, you can always hit us up on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for the Real Feels Podcast. You can go to Twitter. We are at Real Feels Pod. And of course, if you want to shoot us an email, we are realfeelspodcast@gmail.com. And, coming up, Nathan has...
Bringing down the house.
Tragedy.
Well, we got a little comedy beforehand. Good with the bad.
And we'll sandwich it with a little bit of comedy afterwards.
Yep, I will bring screwball comedy to help round off the tragedy. that Nathan will be bringing us.
Is it? Don't they call that like a? I think that's like a yearly sort of review from an employer. They call it like a shit sandwich.
Or compliment sandwich.
Yeah, it's like they give you something that they like, and the filling is made of shit, but then they finish with something that they like. That's what we're going to be doing for you guys the rest of the summer here.
You showed up on time most of this week. You're going to get fired. But we really enjoy your work ethic when you clean the toilets. You're like, what?
Is this homemade ciabatta bread? Oh, yeah. Isn't it great?
Delicious.
Whoa, what's inside? Cat litter.
It's delicious.
We really enjoy how you bake and bring treats to the office, Jack. Just maybe not label the one you leave downstairs for the technicians for the fatties.
It's for a cop. Why'd you tell them it's for a cop?
Guys, thank you for joining us for the Real Feels podcast. We hope you have had a good time. Go tell all your friends, family, loved ones about all them feels that you can get out here. Top Secret, I believe, is still available at this time on Amazon Prime.
She is.
I own
it. Come watch it with me.
Come watch it with me. So we will see you next week for an episode of What Are You Watching? And then the following week, we'll get into Nathan's tragedy. So, as always, remember, you're the realist.
And the feelist.
Souvenirs, novelties, party tricks. You forgot your funny dog poop. What? Funny dog poop.
And I'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow.
Latrine!
Oh, Christ.
And it's so neat, shooting ski while